Probably not, because there's probably too many to do. It's more of so we've got. Sorry, I've got to put I haven't put the PowerPoint on for Lisa, so she's not seeing what you're seeing. Okay, the next bit. So yeah, that's basically.
So this morning, my name's Lisa, and I'm chairing the session with Adi as my co-pilot. We hope to have a lively session. We go to the next one.
Yeah.
And
it's just really just
as you can see, why people in public services matter to PCC, because we do. We like input. Who are people in public services? Sorry.
On the agenda today, that's what we're going to be discussing.
Oh.
It's okay. It's okay.
On today's agenda is why people for public services matter. Birmingham City Council, who are people in public services, very important, the code of conduct, and how today's meeting will work. And we'll hear a lively, interesting presentation about technology-enabled care. It was founded in 2019, just before pre-lockdown, and it's a citizen-led partnership between people of Birmingham and local authorities. We meet on a monthly basis and initially focused on adult social care, but we do go now much wider into including the Commonwealth, games and planning, and much more. We formed and then we went into lockdown, so a lot of our meetings were just virtual, and we met every week just to keep in touch with people. That was a picture that was took pre-lockdown.
Oh my God. Get rid of that hair.
Yeah, I'm going to recommend that we get this redone sometime, because I'm not on it.
I'm sure there's another one.
Yeah, so that was
on there.
Sorry.
And Jackie's on there. Yep, there's a few suspicious faces in that picture. Updated. So that was the
beard and the greenish jacket.
That's right.
That jacket needs to
so
be.
That was pre-lockdown, as I just said. Let's go for the next one.
Okay. It's just. I mean, yeah. Do you want me to have a look?
You do that one.
Yeah. So, yes. Again, Lisa introduced me. I'm Adi. I don't know if you can see me. I'm in the room in the corner. Yeah. So basically, during the meeting, if you can mute, if you're online, if you can mute your microphones, because it does interfere with conversations or discussions, unless you need to speak, I guess. And if you want to speak,
we can see.
If you throw your hand up electronically, or if you're in the room, just put your hand up, and Lisa will pick you out, and make sure you get a chance to speak.
One of us will.
One of us, yeah. And it says all comments to go through the chair, as we've just mentioned. Also, if you've got any comments in the online, you could always put it in the chat. Put your hand up, and whether it's a comment or a question, throughout the whole meeting, you're welcome to do it in the chat, and we'll pick them up when there's a chance to answer questions, I guess.
Can I also suggest, if you've got your hand up and you're going to ask a question, just say who you are and where you're from, so we get to know who's around the room in a roundabout way. Oh. And the last one is about car park. Have you car park?
Oh, the car park is downstairs in this building, but no, that's not the car park we're talking about. We're talking about the car park for items that are not related to today's topic. We'll park it and pick them up after the meeting if necessary, and if we can. So that's that.
That's that, yeah, please. Code of conduct. Be inclusive, respect each other's views, and treat each other as an equal, and check to make sure everybody has understood what he said, speak clearly and in simple language, and try and keep off jargon. Please pull us up if we come out with jargon.
What is jargon? Sorry.
What is jargon?
It's a jargon. You see, so
it's like using PfPS for this group. Carry. Is it going to be one of those?
No, probably we'll see.
It's gonna be one of them ones.
It's going to be one of
Lisa.
their mornings.
You're going to be.
Rowena?
Yeah.
It's Rowena.
Me now.
Mo-
Hey, do you know?
Moena, yeah.
Yeah. It's over to.
That's great. Am I right here? Should I just go?
Yeah. Do you want?
me over there?
Or should we just give you the laptop? We'll give you the laptop,
Oh, wow.
and then you just so everybody can see
Look
them.
at this.
Yes.
Very impressed. Even then, oh my gosh, I can see myself. Right, so maybe I'll sit this way when I'm looking at you all. Hi, lovely to see you all and see some of you again. So I'm Morwenna, and I work with an organisation called Rethink Partners. Anita is also from Rethink here, and we've got a few people online as well. So Amy, Irene, and Simon are there in the background, and we're working with Birmingham to look at how they can bring more technology into people's health and care in the foreseeable future. So it's quite a big vision at the moment, and we're kind of halfway through the process a little bit of putting that into place. And I wanted to come and talk to you with the point that we're at the moment to get your thoughts on it. Everybody can be here online. So I'm not going to talk to you for very long, and we're going to split up a little bit between us, and then we're going to have a bigger discussion. We'll have a discussion in the room here, and online people will break into groups, depending on how many we've got. I think we'll see when I stop finally, then we'll see how many we've got online, and we'll decide how much we're breaking into. So hopefully that sounds okay, and what you're expecting today. So this is Birmingham's vision for technology-enabled care. That's the jargon. It means hopefully what it says on the tin, how technology can enable care, but maybe that's something we can talk about as we go along. So the thing that we want this kind of piece of work and project to do in the long term is enable people to live independently in their own home for as long as possible with the right support. So hopefully that's a kind of familiar vision. That's generally what social care is trying to do. And we are focusing this at the moment on adult social care. So it's not about children's services, and although it will kind of cross over with health, it's really focused on the social care at the moment. We'll explain that more as we go along. We also would hope that it would reduce social isolation. So that's an important part of it. And really importantly, that it gives support for unpaid carers as well. As I'm sure you're aware, when someone needs care in their lives, often it's the nearest loved ones, whether they live with them or not, that give a lot of that care. And technology can alleviate some of that pressure on people. So that's where we see it being a real success as well. So I think, Deb, if you're okay to unmute and just speak to this slide about what Birmingham's done before kind of Rethink came on the scene, really.
Yeah, hi, I'm Debbie and I work in Adult Social Care Commissioning at Birmingham City Council, and I'm just going to give you just a brief overview of what's currently provided by Adult Social Care. So some of these may be familiar to you, some of them you might not have be aware of. So if we start with Community Equipment Loan Service, this provides the traditional types of equipment to help people with everyday tasks so that they can live independently as possible in their own homes. And this includes equipment that you might have seen about, things like walkers, grab rails, and aids to help people with dressing, bathing, that kind of thing. So traditional types of equipment. Telecare packages. These are alarm systems that are placed in the person's home and are linked to a contact centre. And the contact centre is available 24 hours a day and is provided by the council's Careline telecare service. So a basic telecare package is an alarm unit. So it's an alarm unit which is connected to the person's telephone line, and then they have a button pendant which they can wear around the neck or on the wrist. And if the person feels unwell at home or falls over and can't get up, they just press the button on the pendant and it calls straight through to Careline contact centre. And then an operator at Careline will speak to the person through the telecare device and ensure that they then receive the help they need. And there are other devices that can be attached to this basic package, which depends upon the person's needs. So there could be things such as temperature sensors, bed and door sensors, and smoke alarms. And again, if any of these are activated, they place the call through to Careline contact centre. Own phones, these may be something that you're not familiar with. They're actually very simple mobile phones that just have one number pre-programmed into them, and that's the number to call the Careline Contact Centre. And we use own phones mainly for helping people to ensure they get promptly discharged from hospital home. And it means that when they're at home, they can call for help easily if they're feeling unwell. So the own phone is just a very small, light, very simple mobile phone. Person wears it around their neck, and if they need to call for help, they just press one button on the own phone, and it calls through to the Careline Contact Centre. And again, an operator there will speak to the person and ensure that they're given the help they need. Activity monitoring systems, the one that we use is actually called Canary Care. And what we do is we place this in a person's home for 4 weeks, and it provides us with information on the person's daily routine. And it's used to help inform the social care assessment of what type of support the person needs and when they need it. And it's mainly just very small sensors that are placed around the person's home. And these sensors detect movement and if doors are open or closed. So there aren't any cameras on this. There's no cameras. It doesn't take any pictures. It doesn't record sound, nothing like that. It basically just detects movement. And it can be useful, particularly for people, say, with memory problems or confusion, who aren't able to explain to us what their daily routine is and what sort of help they need. So it provides us with that evidence that we can use to help identify what kind of support they require. And all those packages and services and equipment that I've mentioned, access to them all is through an assessment by a social worker or an occupational therapist. And we don't charge for the services or the equipment, but we do just provide the equipment on loan. And that means that when the person no longer needs it, we do require it back and then we can reuse it. And I just want to mention Brain in Hand. This is an app. So it's an app that fits on the mobile phone. And we're trialling this at the moment with 20 young people. And the Brain in Hand app, what it does, it helps people who have difficulty planning their day, remembering appointments, and who experience extreme anxiety when the unexpected happens. And we've purchased 20 licenses for the app, and we've given these to young autistic people who experience anxiety and have difficulty planning their time. And the aim is to help them establish routines, develop planning and problem-solving skills, and to better manage anxiety so they don't become overwhelmed. So that's just a quick overview of what's currently in place. But going forward, we want to be able to offer a wider range of technology. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much, Deb. And thanks for the question in the chat, which Deb has answered about how you can access these services. And I just realised I forgot to introduce one person, which is, how do I say her name? Is it? LA. Do you want to just introduce yourself?
Hi, Sam. I'm currently one of the team managers for the Adult Social Care Contact Centre. So my team take care of referrals for adults with care and support needs, social care requests, or occupational therapy requests, which includes equipment and adaptation. And safeguarding referrals, if there's any issues with abuse, where one for you'd need to contact, and for mental health referrals as well. And so we do get a lot of queries. We've got a contact centre with in excess of 25 advisors who deal with these kinds of referrals. In addition to telephone calls, we also receive referrals via online assessment and email as well.
Sorry, did everybody online, are you managing to pick up what was just said?
Yes, Lisa. Hearing. Sorry, yeah. I had a bit of difficulty hearing it. I heard bits. Sorry.
We can repeat a little bit. I think that it was really helpful. And Elaine's here because if anyone's got any specific questions about their own care or someone they know and wants to know what they can access, then Elaine is your woman. So I might ask her to put the contact centre details in the chat when we've broken into groups, but also anyone in the room can just chat to her. So and she's been part of this process so far, so she's really on board with what we're planning to do, which is great. So thanks so much for coming. So yeah, that's brilliant. That's a good affirmation in the chat, thank you. And so I think I'm passing to Anita next, just to talk through kind of some of the other technology we could be looking at.
Hello, well, I hope you can hear me. I'll speak as loud as I can, and apologies for those sitting near me. So as Moana explained, I'm with Rethink Partners, who have been asked by BBC to come along and help with this program that they're on, this journey around assistive technology. You can see, or I can explain to you a few of the tech that is available. It doesn't mean you're going to get this, but this is the tech that is available and we have been using in some other areas. So the first one I can see is an electronic tablet, not a pill, but an electronic tablet. You may have one of these. There are Samsung, Alexa, Galaxy. There are so many of them. But what they do is they provide a social contact. And we say when we present, we don't talk about personal, but my own mum had one in a care home. And her last Christmas with her, you know, she joined us on the Christmas table, moaning about the size of my Yorkshire puddings. That gave her so much confidence. She never managed a mobile phone, but we could spend time with her, and it stopped that isolation of her being alone for so long. We can put appointments on there, so they could tell you if you had a GP appointment coming up or the district nurse coming in, social worker, and it would give you a reminder of that person coming to visit you. There's also a lot of access for support and information on there. Now, a lot of the technology, I know some people worry about it, but the sort of equipment we put in is what we call locked down. That means you can't do your Betfred, you can't do your eBay, but you know, you can still access some parts of the internet to get help and information that you might need. It's also great for fun and entertainment, crosswords. Deb's mentioned apps. There's lots of apps that you can have available for mental health, well-being, and they're great to view. So that is a very popular piece of information and technology that we have there. The next bit is mobile telecare devices, and Debs has told you there again about some of the equipment that we have, and that one's got a Careline name on it. But we have lots of little bits and pieces like the watch there, and it could be a watch that would allow you to call for help if you needed it, if you were out and about. The next one we've got on there now is, I think it looks like a Ring doorbell. Some of you may already have these, with a few other smart devices like plugs, light bulbs, and an Alexa. I'm saying that name, of course, other models are available. I can tell a quick story of a young lady we had, well, I think she was on 49. She had multiple complex conditions, and the kids in the neighbourhood, she lived in a cul-de-sac, knew that it took her 30 minutes to get up and answer the door. Her sight was going due to one of her conditions, so the team were able to put that monitor up on her television, which really enhanced it. And Tracy soon found out, you know, the kids would knock on the door and she'd say, "I can see you, little rascals. You know, I know where you live." And that really helped Tracy, and she felt confident in the home and secure that she could see who was at the door, rather than just opening the door, not really letting anybody have access to it. As I said, the smart plugs, you can plug a kettle in. Another lady took her 20 minutes to walk to get the kettle boiled after a cup of tea. Some people say if you don't use it, you lose it, but she was still walking to the toilet or the kitchen to get to her kettle. But it meant by the time she said, "No, Alexa, kettle on," by the time she got there, it was cool enough for her to make her tea, sit down and then drink it. We also have light bulbs. They haven't got any on this slide. Tracy again had a blue one because she found at night it really helped her vision. I do wonder what the neighbours thought every time the blue light went on and off, mind you. Could do it wasn't a red one. Yeah, but what are they doing? Then we have medication aids. And these sort of things can again be reminders, an app on a phone that will tell you when to take your tablets. Some people who have multiple medication, we can also provide a medicine dispenser. So, you know, instead of having a box which the pharmacist might provide you, the pills are put into the medical, and you would put a hand or a cup underneath it and it would drop straight in it. So no problems with opening medicine caps or getting it, you know, out of the little pill boxes, which can be quite difficult. We then have our falls detectors, and there's a range of these. The one we've got there is a pendant. Now, again, my mum had one of those big red buttons, you know, it's like, "Look at me, I need help." These are quite smart now. You know, technology has moved on and is continuing to move on. And I heard a story of a lady that actually fell in the garden with her falls button on. And because it had to go to the remote, she lay there for 2.5 hours until the postman came by and picked her up. These new ones you can wear anywhere. I've been told that you can go to the Great Wall of China, and because of the connection and the sat nav in it, it will still work. Unfortunately, Rethink won't let me go there to try that out. We then have awards and watches, which, you know, again, you can call for help. Some of them have GPS, a signal that, so somebody with dementia or early dementia would be better, if they were out and about and they got lost, they could push a button, simple button, and somebody would guide them back from the monitoring centre. Again, you can put these GPS on it, so you can set boundaries. So if somebody was wandering, they could only have like a 300-metre parameter, and if it went over that, then it would send an alarm and somebody would know that they would need help and support. What else have we got on here? We've got a lot of the remote monitoring. Again, Deborah mentioned that. And these are sensors that we place around the home, bedroom, kitchen, areas where you're more likely to fall. Again, not watching you, so you don't have to worry about undressing or having a shower, but it's a great way. And some of these can link to an app that your family member have. Again, so you know they can see how long you're sitting in the chair for. As Deborah explained, it's a way of looking at their daily activities. And this data is all contained and sent to a monitoring centre, so we can see what your natural patterns are and best help you. Again, you know, somebody might have a drinking problem, and we can monitor how much drink they go to the fridge to get, and if they are getting enough adequate fluids in that way. We've got some virtual reality on there, and I don't know if you've ever tried any of these or seen the video clip of a ballerina that is in her later years with dementia. And when she has this monitor or music played, her graceful arms, she becomes that wonderful ballerina that she was 50 years ago. It's really quite emotional. Lots of people with dementia remember things that happened 20, 30 years ago, not 10 minutes ago. And it's great to walk them down the streets of Glasgow where they used to run as a boy. And it really is good for their well-being and helps a lot of people with things like that. So I think I'm doing fine on the time there. There's lots of other tech, and we can always go into a lot more detail with this, with you, as the project moves on. We would really like your views of what you think would be beneficial. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita. And I think we really wanted to bed it in that information first, to give you some idea of what are we talking about, because sometimes it can be quite hard to think about what the services might look at without thinking about some of those specifics. But what's most important is that these are the outcomes that we want to achieve, and any of that kind of technology could get us there potentially. But these are the outcomes. We split them into citizens and unpaid carers, so you can read them there that citizens are connected, they're safe and secure, they're independent, they've got improved emotional well-being, access to services, and they have a quality service. So hopefully stuff that you would all agree with, and we're really open. If we've missed anything and you think there's more that should be in these outcomes, then we can add to them, so we can talk about that in the breakout groups. And also, as I mentioned at the beginning, that unpaid carers are supported and enabled to care. That's another really important outcome. So that's the kind of, always when we're planning a project like this, we always come back to these outcomes and think, what is it that we're trying to achieve? So they're our kind of anchor. And this is the potential process of how it could work in practice as well. This is a lot of what we're discussing with staff at the moment, and people like Alea's team and social workers, that we're thinking about where could we start talking to people about technology, when is it best to bring it into their journey with social care. But this is a kind of headline process that we could use. So obviously identifying someone who might benefit, also then having some kind of assessment. We need to source the specific technology and install it. And where there is technology being provided by a company, there's something about how that relationship with the company works, whether they install it, how they support the person, what the responsibility of the council is. There's kind of all those details to figure out as we go along. And we're really conscious when these services are set up, sometimes councils can be guilty of just buying in a product, putting it out there and then forgetting about it. And it's really important that it's reviewed, that it's part of the conversation about care in general, and that it's checked in on. There might be maintenance that's needed or upgrades and things like that. And really importantly as well, some of the stuff that both Deb and Anita have mentioned, we can get data from these devices that can then inform the service that is happening. And one of the examples we often use is that you feel like there may be more care might be reduced if technology comes in, but actually technology might tell us that someone is getting up and down loads in the night and they're not safe, and actually we need to put some more care in the night, for example. And so that data can be really important for individuals' care. And also it can be really interesting to look at the data across a whole area or population and understand what whole services could be changed because of the information that's coming in. So again, that's something that we don't want to miss a trick when we put this technology in, as we could really harness it. So that's another part of the process. And then also that it's really important that the tech is reviewed, refreshed, or removed and reissued. That it's a live and continuous process. It doesn't just go in and forget about it. It's not useful to anyone, and it's got to be meaningful. So we're really conscious that this process needs to kind of follow through. And this is the project that we're working to at the moment. And I'm sure if you've been around in the People for Public Services for a while, you'll know these things are long-winded and have many hoops to jump through, and lots of council processes that are really important. This is spending a lot of public money potentially. We need that accountability, and yeah, there's lots to kind of think about. And so the long-term aim is to have this service mobilised and in action by this time next year, so kind of April 2024, and working back from that, you can see all the steps that we need to take. So we've already done the beginning. We've kind of got out there, talked to staff, we've talked to citizens, we've set up a technology enabled care citizens board, which I can talk some more about before we finish today. So some people here are members of that, and some people online. So we've already kind of been starting to talk to people, and we've been through a design phase where we've held workshops looking at some of what I've discussed already. So in those design workshops, we've come up with the outcomes, and we've also come up with that high level process of how we might put this in place. And we're in this stage now, point 3, where we're building the case for investment. So we're saying to the decision makers in the council, why should you invest in this? What should you invest in? What are we proposing? That's obviously quite an in-depth process. But it leads us to a point in the autumn where we can start to procure, which is a posh word for buy, and we can buy those services in. But we need to be really robust in which things are we suggesting we invest in, what's going to be the most cost-effective thing, and then we can look at what the providers can provide that. So those are kind of the steps that we're taking. And I wanted just to reassure you that underlying all of that is lots of communication, engagement and co-production like we're doing today. There's lots of leadership and kind of governance checks that we have to go through. It has to go right up to cabinet, I believe, which is like the biggest decision-making point in the council. And also we're really aware that this is quite a culture change for staff in particular and citizens. But staff are very used to how they do assessments and how they talk to people and what options they put in place. It's a bit of a shift to say, have you thought about this thing, or could we think outside the box and do it differently? And so there's quite a big shift to happen for staff as well as citizens. And when we do work like this at Rethink, we take that kind of two-pronged attack, and we make sure that everybody is thinking about it as they go along. So see there's been some stuff popping up in the chat, but is there anything I need to attend to, Lisa?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Amanda's been keeping an eye. Is anything on there, Amanda?
So Adib has just asked us if there's a list of useful apps for phones and tablets. Adrian asked that.
Deborah's responded.
She responded to that, sorry. Okay, I didn't see a response, apologies. Yeah, also Javid asked how you book an assessment, which I think Deb did respond to, thanks Deb. Anne's mentioned about the NHS used to have an app library, but unfortunately I think that they've now removed it. I'm not sure there's anything similar at the moment. And then Simon thankfully has put the website to be really reliable for apps and has just posted that if anyone wants to refer back to that in the chat as well. I think that's it. Please let me know if we've not covered anything that you wanted to ask. Thank you, Lisa.
Okay. Is that all right?
Over to
Yeah, so we'll go into breakout rooms now, I think. So what we're going to do is answer these 4 questions, and we've got a good 45 minutes, so this should take us to about 12:15. We finish at 12:30, so we'll just come back at the end. Yeah, I'll come and do that afterwards, I think. So I'll set these guys up and then I'll come and split into groups. I think maybe 2 because I think there's quite a lot of staff going on.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
So we'll see who we can put in each room. So we're going to split online into two or three rooms. We'll come and have a look, and then this group, I think we can just have one group in here. Anita, maybe if you can facilitate that discussion. And these are the 4 questions we're going to be looking at. So how confident you feel about technology and types of technology, what enables or prevents you from using it, what we need to consider when thinking about different communities in Birmingham specifically, and how else it might impact communities, just thinking about the wider impact. And when we come back, we're just going to hear from kind of 2 or 3 groups on each question and some feedback before we tie up. So if you've got any more specific questions, probably best to wait until we're in our breakout rooms and you can ask your facilitator. Amy and Irene will be in 2 online, and then Anita here. And and then we'll be back in about 45 minutes. Right. Okay, great.
I don't know if you want to get a drink.
Yeah, we're going to pause and have a refreshment break here if you want. So I'm going to do yeah. Hi there. If we go to see the breakout rooms, I'm just teaching Adib as well. And then we can move it to 2 rooms. And then we can create the rooms and actually open them. And then you can assign participants, so we can just go and check that we've got a facilitator in each one. I've been drinking that. So Irene's in room 2. I think we could maybe put Deb with Irene.
I was going to head that way
anyway. So then.
Okay, you're all going to rooms now. You should be automatically.
What I'll just do is I'll put a setting on for 45 minutes. And then you should get zoomed back in. If you get stuck, then Irene and Amy can give you the link to this meeting in the chat, and you can click on that.
Interesting.
Can you give us about a 5-minute warning before we come back into the room?
Sorry, say that again, Mark. How you doing, Mark? You're right.
Yeah, I'm fine, man. When we're in the breakout room, you can give us 5-minute warning before we come back into the main room. That would be good.
I think it gives less than that, like maybe a 1 or 30-second warning or something. But there's a timer in the top left-hand corner, right-hand corner that's counting down because I've set a timer.
And as facilitators, we'll try and keep an eye on the time, and we'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you all.
Right, I'm going to open them. There's an awkward 30 seconds while you all stare at each other, and then you go into rooms and you'll see the timer counting down. Okay.
Where's John gone?
To the toilet.
Oh, is that what he was? Okay. Yes, this is going to be. I think you said we need to mute. She's don't we? We don't need to sense because they're going to be.
People are going. I mean, it should all go into rooms. So yeah, but yeah, we might as well mute ourselves.
Yes.
Unmute.
Hi, Dave.
Tim, you still on that screen?
All right.
Have you been assigned a room?
Yeah. I took the
Sorry, say that again, Tim. I never got it.
I did tick the tab for that group, but it brought it.
It brought you back here. Let's see if we can get you back in there. Bear with us, Tim. Sorry about that.
Does it have there's no button anywhere that says join room, Tim?
I pressed it and it brought back.
Into the other room, maybe. How about now, Tim? You got something?
It's saying to join group. Room.
Click on that.
Yeah, just click on it. Yeah, should take you there. It'll zoom you. It'll beam you up, Scotty.
I think we better make it. I think we better make it start.
Yeah, he's gone. He's on.
No.
Fantastic. So,
I will.
hopefully I'm not sure they can hear you. So we've got 4 questions. to
Tim's on
answer,
hold.
and
He
I
is
think
in the
we'll be
other
back
room,
on
but he's on hold in this.
So the first
Okay.
question is, how confident
that other
do
chap's
you
on, I
feel
think.
about
Okay.
using technology? And if you do use
I know, it's
technology at the moment,
Changes the breakout rooms.
what you do is a tablet phone.
That's
Okay. Hi,
Yeah.
both.
So you're Mr. Tech.
Who's that? Hi, Susan.
Anybody else have tech?
Yeah, pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Susan, added to a room.
Smartphone.
Yeah, pretty much the same.
The same.
Phone, computer, laptop, was
All the usual.
all the
Usual.
usual.
You know, sometimes we ask people, do you use technology? And they say, oh no, I've got a phone. When they bring it
Susan,
up,
you should have a button to press to join a
and
room.
they say, yeah, well, I don't
That's
use
so
it much
you're
though. And I say,
struggling.
well, what do you do? And oh, well, I found my sister in Australia this week, and you know, I booked my doctor's appointment, and I said, is it, well, you are. You say the same
Hi, guys.
word or
I'm
phrase.
just assigning you to
times, she does
rooms.
tick
We've
it
got
off.
it to breakout rooms.
So
If you're
I'm gonna
struggling,
try
let me
it.
know. You should,
Yeah, it does.
when I do it in a
pick up.
second, there should be a button that says
Yes.
which room
She can't.
join, and you
So
can
we
just
have a
go
home
join.
where there's some
Tim's
young adults with learning disabilities, and one particular lady's voice is, you know, is very active, to understand, but she wants to
There's a
use it.
button
She
to
goes,
press. Please do press it.
it's like Uki, and Alexa now knows Uki means music. You know, it's we're trying to get it to play Donny Osmond because she loves Donny Osmond, so we're trying to get it to say. I know somebody has to, don't they? That's quite right.
So, but a funny thing, I've got my light. For some reason, I'd set the lounge lights to come on 6 in the morning. I couldn't find out how to cancel it. At disadvantage, I have friends saying, in the
Have you
lounge,
got a button to
6
press
o'clock in the
that
morning, the
says
lights came on,
join a
and they come
room?
into me going, what's wrong, what's wrong? I go, no, it's just time to get up.
Get up, move on.
But then Alexa died for some reason, and we rebooted it, and that
stopped.
came off.
Yeah.
I do use it 10 o'clock every night, ring my friend. That's the last contact I have anybody, and that's going to repeat.
Yes. I mean, Alexa's a strange thing. When we put her in home, people say, oh, hello, Alexa. And I say, no, you have to be rude to her. Alexa, do this. And she'll listen. You know, it takes a while to get used to them. It certainly does. So how confident do you feel about using this type of tech? Mr. Techno is probably as perfect.
I do feel confident. Need to really learn each new piece because it comes with another attachment. Many who might have been accustomed to using Google will notice now that after you develop a routine, you may hear it telling you a voice, the Google Assistant telling you you're late for your bus, but you've not updated your calendar or something. It's doing a lot more tracking of your activities. It can give you reminders, even the medical app synchronizes with that. Even if you don't pay attention to your app, first thing pops up on your phone. Even if a call comes up, you see it there, tablet or medication.
Yeah, one of the things I've found is that you do an update
something else pops up like on the iPhone, the focus, where it used to just be do not disturb, it's now focus. And it's so difficult to turn off. You set it and there's an on button, but there's no off button. Go away.
It's understanding, setting them things.
Understanding, isn't it? Understanding.
And who to contact if there's any techie issues. And I think we get a lot of default calls to our services to say that, you know, we've got this piece of equipment, it's not working. Or we're trying to go online, we've got a tech issue, you know, website that we've endorsed or we've shared. And it's, oh, okay, who do we contact to resolve that issue? I think that would encourage a lot of people with confidence, knowing who to contact if there's a tech issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Who do you go to for your tech advice?
Well, you.
Back to you two. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of lucky in a way because I'm good with technology. But you know, my concern is for my parents who live, you know, down the road from me is, you know, their knowledge of technology. And I tend to find that they mainly come to me to help, you know, to help with things like computers, smartphones, other tablets, other smart devices, and all sorts of things.
It can be complicated, can't it? You know, all I can say is that some of the tech that we have used is it's much more simplified. So as you saw with the tablet, Mum's just had my face, my brother's face, and the sister's face.
Yeah.
So that's all she needed to contact.
Yeah.
And you just push the face rather than trying to remember now. Push button 112, what's the telephone number? So you know, tech has amazing ways of being able to use it for that particular reason, and that will help. And bigger buttons as well, so that you know people with digital problems can actually use it. So that's another good way. Anybody else? Anyone else go for help anywhere?
One of my concerns about it,
Yeah.
the advances, is the security.
Security, yes, that's a really good question.
Even on the tech, I will tell you that within the last 2 days, I've blocked over 20 calls, 20 spam calls.
Yeah.
I've even had a text, supposedly from my bank, asking me to update
We'll think
immediately.
few of us have fallen for that one.
But the funny thing is,
Just us with disabilities, all that,
Yes.
even like Adi could, or Amanda, or
Absolutely.
anyone.
So what we and I think when I pointed out what, and I said it every time, we lock these down. So the only people that will be able to call that telephone number is inputted into the system, so that it's, you know, you won't get calls in the night, you won't get people trying to be fraudulent with you. Obviously, when I say that, you know, there's always a way. If somebody wants to get in, they will. But these phones are what we call lockdown. So if they wanted to phone a neighbour down the road, they'd have to go back to the system that set it all up to add that number to it. You know, for security, for safe. So we try to keep them as safe as we can. And I want to mention the governance. And there's lots of hoops that we have to go through and disclaimers. And there's tech experts that are testing out the tech, trying to break into it, trying to, you know, crack. But so we're always aware of that, you know, to keep people safe. You know, the ultimate game of this is to keep people safe in their homes for longer. You know, that's what we want. We don't want them, you know, having to go to care homes or, you know, live with other family members. So it does work.
Anybody else uses this program? It's called AnyDesk or Help Desk, where the other person at the other end can take control of your device and help you out.
Yes.
That is one of the main programs that scammers use to take over your device.
Yeah, I mean, we've all had them. Oh, you know, your AOL, your server's down. You know, put your new number in. I've got control of your screen. And fine, you don't maybe.
I only use it with one person. That's the person who's looked out.
Has anybody used any tech for their health?
Well, I've got a pacemaker. It's actually got a reader in my bedroom. So if there's a problem with the pacemaker through the night, it will adjust that. And also, for the annual checkup, started during lockdown. I can just take the reader off of the base station, put it on the pacemaker.
Yeah.
And it will automatically send all the readings to
the doctor. I mean, it is amazing now. Anybody else? Music for health or
Until
safety.
last week when I lost my smart watch. Yeah, you see, it's meant to monitor everything from distance walk to heart, rhythm, these things like that.
Yeah.
And it's connected to your GP.
And you know, we mentioned that sometimes we have some special technology that we buy additional to what we call the core items. And you know, sometimes there's some machinery for diabetics that measures their blood sugar continuously, so they don't have to have a blood test. They don't have to go to the doctor every other month to get it checked. You know, as you say, it's sent through, and that's lots of other equipment that comes under that special feed. I mean, I've got this thing. It's like measuring my blood pressure. I've not looked at my reading coming down from Norfolk this morning when I got stuck on the motorway. It's going to be through the roof. But you know, there's lots of things, and social care. Anybody thought about it? They're using it for social care.
I'm aware of actually people having with hearing impairment.
Yes.
That's called into the service, where because they're using the interpreter. I think it's called hearing, things like that. But basically, they've got an interpreter who's actually allowing them to communicate and the advice is taking the information, but it's just a little bit less aware of that issue with hearing impairment.
So when I, you know, the social care that I found that helped best with my mum when she was at home and she had carers coming in 4 or 5 times a day. She never had any control over when they came in. You know, sometimes the breakfast lady or lunch lady would arrive at 11 o'clock with the lunchtime lady coming at 12. You know, sometimes they'd come at 4 o'clock to put her to bed. So, you know, with her smart television, you know, she was able to call them and say, you know, they were late coming in this morning, please don't come till 2 o'clock. Or if I turned up, you know, my daughter's here, she'll put me to bed. It gave her back a bit of independence. So that was one form of social care that, you know, we could look and monitor and watch.
A bit of freedom.
It absolutely did. Yes, it did. You know.
So for jumping that one in there.
That's right.
That is a common issue.
It is.
You still get calls.
I'm surprised you're not recording this today.
At random times because they're only late.
Yeah.
The piece of technology, it's called Relay UK. I keep forgetting it as well. Relay UK. So that's key for people with hearing impairment.
Yes.
And we do call in, but obviously because of the hearing restriction, they need that support to relay.
Another smart piece of technology was what we call a C-pen. And so there was a young lady that had learning difficulties. And most of her learning difficulties was that she couldn't read and write. You know, she, as the older sibling, used to have to stay off school to help mum look after the younger siblings, etc. Sadly, when mum passed away, she then became the responsible adult. And I know that health and social care were very worried about the children's diet. She couldn't read. This C-pen, you know, you pick it up, it reads the text to you. So when she went shopping, she could see, oh, the fat in that, the calcium, you know, the calories, and it helped the children have a much better diet than herself. So, you know, there's lots of things it can do. I also like talking about the social side of technology because you've got to have some fun in it as well. We did a project down in Essex where we were giving carers during lockdown Alexas. And why, you think, you know, to listen to the weather, to listen to the music. One lady, her husband had quite advanced Alzheimer's and he was always taking his time getting ready in the morning. You know, he'd fight her to take the medication. He'd fight her to get him dressed. So she had this Alexa and she'd put it on and they'd play dance music. And it gave her a love back that she'd lost. They'd dance around, jiving, bopping to music. One problem was he kept going out the back door. So we put a sort of a klaxon sound onto the Alexa every time he went out it. But it never stopped. He still kept going out. So we went back to the drawing board and one smart aleck came up with the sign, ladies' toilet. And he's never been out since. And I think what I want to try and tell you about that one is that, you know, we know tech isn't for everybody. It's not going to work for everybody. But there are ways around it, you know, and the two can blend together. We don't want to stop as more Wenethet, you know, one-to-one, face-to-face care. That's still important. But if we could reduce it and give people, you know, the confidence and families and me as a carer, you know, that I could speak to mum to see what she's up to. You know, it's amazing what it can do to somebody's well-being.
Eventually my voice is going. So
yes,
I've actually bent my voice. So that when I use the tablet, I won't sound like not voice guy, it'll actually have something resembling what
Your voice is.
Yeah.
That's wicked.
That is just amazing. I mean, I've been reading about all this intelligence stuff, you know, where they make you say things you don't. So that will be you. That's amazing. Well done. Shall I use that when I feedback? Thank you. So I'm going to go on to my second question now, because I think we've covered that one. And this second question.
I just wanted to say
Oh,
something.
sorry.
I just wanted to ask, you know how like you've got, you know, the wristwatch and you can check your monitor, your health. Is there something similar where you can put the wristwatch, maybe like, you know, you said you've got parents and they're wearing the wristwatch.
That's right.
And if there is anything, maybe, for example, they have a fall, you get the message to your phone. Is there something already like that?
does that.
There is.
My wife's in there as my emergency contact.
So if you fall,
If I fall, it'll call her.
yeah, okay. Or let her know, will it send her data and stuff?
Absolutely. So it can either go to some people who
Just checking out.
don't have anybody, it could go to a monitoring centre.
Yeah.
And they would respond, or it could go to a relative, absolutely. And lots of our relatives actually feel that they, you know, they're getting back in control. You know, they're not handing their families back into social services in this big cog, that they can get the notifications when they need help and support. But of course, we don't want to overburden carers. You know,
We're
so
sure.
again, it works both ways.
We're sure to take, isn't people know what
Absolutely,
people
it
are, and
is.
it's just like.
It is.
Does any of it have like, do you know, say if you was to lose it or something like that, you know, like a backup to find where you are, because that's.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And you know, that's always one of the questions we're asked, along with, what if I drop it? What if I, you know, what if my grandson comes and steals it? You know, you know, we don't lose many things. And obviously some of the bigger tablets you wouldn't take out with you. The smartwatches are pretty resistant, they stay on quite well, but they would have Find My Phone, things like that on it. So they can sometimes, not all of the equipment, but some of it will be traceable. So that's quite good. So number 2, what enables or prevents you from using technology? What are the barriers? You know, could be cost, could be knowledge, could be you don't know how to work it.
Could be confidence.
Confidence, that's a good one. Thank you. Anything to prevent people or you, or people you know?
Being aware of what's available.
Being aware, yeah. There's so much out there, isn't it? And you don't want to get scammed, and you don't want to spend a lot of money on something. You want to know you're going to get your proper use out of it. And that is the beauty about some of these projects, because, as I said, you know, tech doesn't work for everybody. We can take that back, we can clean it all off, we can, you know, decode it, and we can give it to somebody else to use. So, you know, I really like that. Some of this tech that we use. Any other things that you think maybe your parents, friends, neighbours, what would prevent them?
Language barriers, I think, especially now, there's a lot of people that struggle with language barriers. It is sort of like equipment going to be able to help everyone.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. When especially if English isn't a first language.
Yeah.
And again, there's, you know, this is what we're going to have to look at and see to help those communities.
What happens in the case of a power cut?
Okay, so what we tend to do is Wi-Fi signal can also be a problem, you know, and the company, there's lots of them out there, but the one particular one I'm thinking about, they put in separate SIM bits and separate cards and things, and they have quite good battery lives. So I think the watch doesn't have to be charged for a week, you know, so you do get it. We always try and think of a backup plan. What would you do if you didn't have that piece of equipment? Because that's very important. You know, if you're relying on to see if it's one of the uresis mats to see if somebody's wet overnight, you know, and the power goes out, then we'd say revert back to what you did before. So we always try and cover all angles because, you know, not much we can do if it's not fully charged.
Do you know some, sorry.
No, it's not.
Do you know some of the, you was on about some of the technology where it can help ring like for help and stuff?
Yes.
So if there was a power cut with them, do they normally have like a little backup?
They have quite good batteries on them,
okay, that
absolutely.
makes sense,
Yes, they do. And I think some of the pendants are for about 2 months.
Oh, okay, that's really good.
We do say, you know, because we don't want you to wear it at night in case you check this on. So we say try and lay it on the battery at night and get into the habit of doing that.
Yeah.
But you don't actually have to change the batteries for a few months.
Yeah.
I mean, Derek, you were talking earlier about some of your neighbours not having, you know, worried about phone lines and broadband and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they're dropping the phone lines, aren't they?
They are,
So-
they are. That's very simple.
And everything's going over the board.
Yes.
Well, a lot of my neighbours are elderly. Don't have broadband.
Yeah. We'll have the understanding of other than a landline.
Yeah, but exactly.
Yeah,
no,
I mean, they don't
No, I
know
mean,
how to use a smartphone. If they want to use a smartphone, they'll come around to us and say, how do I do this?
it's coming in quite quickly. I think it's 2025 that the changes are happening. And obviously it's down to the power companies to start letting people know that, you know, this is happening and you're going to have to get with the digital rather than the analog systems. But it will be a concern for those people.
It will be, because I mean, another thing is that broadband's not actually set up for phone calls.
No,
So it's
no.
not going to be great.
No, no.
And it's like, how will then people then understand how to use the equipment and things like that do get put in place?
So any of the tech that we put in
Yeah.
is really quite, I have to say, it's very simple to use.
Okay, so
But somebody will, you know, the installers will not leave until you
you understand.
or a neighbour or a friend or a relative understand it.
Yeah.
And there's always a big help button. So if you're really stuck, you just push that one
Yeah.
and you'll get online support and
I
help
think,
there. But that is a worry.
the kind of devices we're talking about as well, the data generated nowadays, you can tell if people are using those devices as well.
Yes,
If
absolutely.
they're not using them, then you can follow up and say, well,
Certainly.
what
So Mum
you know,
used to
understand.
turn her care phone off at night and unplug it. And I'd say, why, Mum? You know, why? Oh, it saves the electricity. I'm not in home. We pay for it. You know, and I said, it's like your telephone at home. You wouldn't unplug that, would you? You know, so it's about habits. It's about getting people to understand that, you know, it costs something like, we can tell them, you know, down to 23p a year to run it. You know, it's not high electricity needs.
Would you install some broadband?
If it's needed, yes, if it's
Yeah.
needed. As I say, I live in deepest, darkest Norfolk, and signals is really bad, but we did some project pilots there. And yes, the company came in with extra support to get them going. I don't know any in the 5 years I've been there, they've not been able to get a signal up and running. It might not have been 100% of the time. Yeah. But, you know, with 5G and everything else coming on board, it is getting better. You know, all this cable is going down, Cat 6 or 7 units, not that technical, I'm afraid. So have we got anything else that would prevent? I've got confidence, being aware, language barriers.
You spoke to about cost of power and
Cost of power.
people.
Because of the energy.
What about that?
So,
don't they?
yeah, so is it just general cost? You know, is there a service cost?
Because
for
the way
this?
it's going at the moment, you don't know
No, you don't.
what's going on with the electric or anything.
No, you don't. You don't.
A lot of it's perceived cost as well, because people think it's going to cost them a fortune to do something.
Absolutely. I'll put the cost of power, but I'll put cost in general as well.
Again, it's part of education on this device we're talking about.
Yes.
That they use tiny amounts of electricity,
They do.
really minimal stuff,
Yeah,
and
they
the
do.
benefits of it compared to that cost. It's getting the message over, isn't it? Really, that, you know, don't be worried about the.
And I think that's it. It's about the education as well, about letting you know how much it actually costs to run that. You know, some places, and again, you know, this is for further discussion down the line, they make a small charge for the monitoring service. I think they do that with Careline anyway. Is that right? So people are used to doing that. You know, they're used to a few pounds a week. I think it's about 24, something like that. It's a very minimal cost, but gives you great safety and things.
Another cost would be the affordability of the device.
Yes. And again, we can't work on that. Some areas I work for, it's anybody with a social care need that has a social worker and they can use it in their care package. Some people get personal benefits, you know, personal allowances, and they can spend some of that money on it. Some councils say, well, we're going to invest all of this money because we've seen it done. So again, you know, those are bigger discussions that little pleb me don't get.
I mentioned culture as well. Are we thinking because of the types of calls we receive, there's a lot of repeat calls.
Yeah.
You know, there's someone calling quite a bit for social purposes.
Yes.
And it's not appropriate.
No.
And it's kind of changed the mentality. Actually, maybe you should speak to your Alex.
Yes, absolutely. She'll answer you maybe.
Yes.
Maybe not.
And I think there is a lot in that as well. It's taken away the dependability and, you know, making people realise this will work and, you know, benefit you in this way. My opinion.
So what would enable you to get this, do you think? Enablement, what could we do to enable you to get this tick?
I'd say in the case of my elderly parents, the thing that enable them to get that technology would be a reliable broadband connection and one that doesn't go down during a power cut either. Because one thing I noticed from personal experience is I've had, broadband with both BT and Virgin Media, and I found when there's a power cut, Virgin Media broadband goes down. There's a power cut in your area. Whereas with a BT phone line, that continues to work. It's on like a separate sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. What else? I mean, what about training? I'm lucky I've got lots of tech experts here in the room. But do you think, that what would enable people to use tech? Could it be, some support, some training, some classes?
One things, hearing good reviews from persons who use it, probably like say within an age grouping that you're targeting. Hearing good reviews from that age grouping.
Use Trustpilot.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be something. I check Trustpilot before I buy something.
So that would enable you to look after it. Fantastic.
I just thought of one. You can find out how to use this piece of equipment via a YouTube video. But how do I get to the YouTube video?
If you don't know, find it. That's right. That's right. So again, in some areas we've set up, a digital champions, a group of people that come along and they can, give free advice on how to use it. They might spend one session on how to download a photograph, how to send an email, how to take your laptop off capitals. It's those simple things that people solve.
I was just going to say, like simplified instructions.
Absolutely, yes.
Of how.
Yeah. And I think sometimes some of the people that we're talking about, they're confused anyway, and it's just all too much. So it's got to be as simplified as possible. So I think it's simple to use. Are you happy if I put that down?
Yeah, because I
think
it's important because very often you try to read instructions for something, and unless you've got a basic knowledge of what a cursor is.
Yes.
That is true.
I agree with you there. I went to a choir the other night and I'd gone to the wrong choir. I was looking for a rock choir, but I went into the Norfolk, orchestra, and they were singing Bach. And they started talking about quavers. Well, the only quaver I know comes in a yellow packet. So it is about knowing, isn't it? It's about knowing what you want to do and how you do it. Well, we're doing great here. So I've got my next one.
I think we've got about 10 more minutes.
Oh, right.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of people, working with members of the public a lot, there's a lot of people that have, I think I was talking to Derek about this earlier, a lot of people, maybe your neighbours alike, they don't use technology so when someone's stuck and they need help, they usually pick up the phone and make a phone call. One of the things that happened in the last about 10 years ago was the 303-1234 number, an easy number to remember. People struggle to remember numbers, so that was easy. They get through, but then they have to press all these buttons.
Push 1, push 6.
So they want to get through to somebody.
So I'm going to put simple to use there.
They want to get through to somebody at a call centre that's actually able to tease out their issue, understand what it is, because sometimes they'll call and they'll think, well, I've got this issue, and the quality of advice and support that they get on the other side is so essential, because if they're able to tease it out and understand what this person's issue is, they could probably address it, in terms of technology. So I think that's something that I've come across quite frequently,
Actually,
quality of advice and information.
On the customer support panel, that's one of the things that we've been discussing recently. We had a company come in, and it was one of these where you phone up and a digital voice will ask you the question, what did you want, in a few words, and would then hopefully route you the right way. But I can see problems with it because accents and, I'm from down south and we use words that up here they wouldn't recognise me. Like a pathway between two roads is a twin. Well, I don't know what you call it here, but it's up north, it's a good one, isn't it?
This is the one where it's the testimonial garbage collection.
Yeah.
Okay. And what they're currently doing is trying to remedy that we're collecting different accents and getting people to see different
To say
things.
different phrases, yeah. That brings me on nicely to my next question, really. I mean, Birmingham's a lovely, vibrant place, but we know there's lots of different cultural and different communities. So my question is, what do we need to consider for this work when thinking about those different communities? You know, you local people, what do we need to look at? Can you give me any tips or advice, please?
Different languages.
Yeah.
I actually think there might be a selling point in terms of, if, you know, we pay a lot for interpreters to attend visits, assessments, etc. If we had some sort of technology, you know, Alexa can be configured to speak these languages, that would actually save
money. Absolutely.
Actually, instead of doing it to the person that's talking to them, and then do it into the person who being asked the question.
That's right. There are quite a few.
And then transfer it back into.
There's lots of apps actually that where you can do that. You know, you can say what you want and to that person, they'll repeat it in their language and then they'll repeat it back. So it does work, and
it would be very cost effective if you come away. It's very expensive service.
But I know I had a social worker come out to do an assessment for me. Similar way she said. I mean, you know, bless her, she's doing the best she can, but it was obviously English was not her first language. And I'm sometimes a bit slow on the uptake of things, you know. Even my wife, who's fairly sharp, so
just good
half of that she's all about.
Sometimes we're too polite to mention it, aren't we? Whereas if we had an app,
I did say so, you know, sorry, can you? But then I was talking to my neighbour's son, and they had somebody, and again, it wasn't their first language. And she's a confused old lady, but the son was an ex-policeman, very sharp. He didn't know. And he said, and yeah, can you send me an email?
So you also mentioned sometimes access to the internet. Are there bad areas? Are there bad spots here in Birmingham where you can't get access?
Yeah. I would just to say in terms of, because most of our advisors are still working from home, and there are few steps at the moment. We get a lot of technical issues for people who use Virgin. Just saying.
Yeah. I don't want to say. I don't want people who have questions with them.
I'm very aware of.
So you wouldn't go with Virgin, okay?
It's not something based on the issues I've had. It's not something that I'm fighting to personally.
And then, how about some of the communities that we support? How could they support each other differently to be able to take this and help with tech? Is there any keys?
Yeah, I was going to say maybe there could be a website, a sort of website set up. And what you could do with that is, you know, you can add that as like as a user, a website as a user guide and as a support base. And on that, you can have options for different languages. So you support all the different communities, and they have the opportunity to understand what's on the website, and they can translate that and pass that on to their family members and, you know, people who they're supporting and so on. If possible, with the some of the devices that sometimes have to have upgrades on or update, you know, software updates on them. If someone's technologically literate, maybe what they could do is they can actually have the software updates on that website, so that there's an option there for people to be able to update their own devices or their family to help update devices and so on. So that really cuts out some of the problem. I mean, obviously, you know, you still have a call centre there, you still have all the proper support in there as you do, but that's like an added on thing to go on top as an additional extra.
Thank you. That's great. Anybody got anything else they'd like to add on that?
I think you can also target community groups and community associations.
There's already a lot out there, isn't there? Is that what you're saying when you look at what we've got?
You could do like technology groups where they can get an understanding of their own community and work through it together, sort of thing.
Tech.
Ruby, I believe, with the doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah, social prescribers here.
They have social prescribers.
Have
Yeah. So I think that's the link that they're supposed to do there.
Just to add on that, at the moment we currently have a citywide occupational therapy clinic. So that is already available on the collective support website, as well as a social work. If someone were to call in, we have a social centre we bring occupational therapy assessment, where we all need we refer for a home assessment. We're actually encouraging people to
do it online.
Not even online. We give the information about the clinics, so you can attend. They're all at these specific times, and you can go and see someone from the specialist area directly. I believe they're doing that for the social work teams as well. The social work teams we're going in the process of kind of a change reference with social work teams as well, where you can actually speak to someone from social care services and have that conversation at a local clinic. And they're including other specialists and people from benefit services, housing services as well, inviting them to attend the clinic at the same time. It might be something.
Yeah. So did people around the table know about that service? No. So how do we get that message out there, which will help us get our message out there? How do you think we get? I mean, people still buy newspapers.
We can't get
Social media.
Google searches, GPs, any local like community places where you get a lot of people that are going. I think, yeah.
There is a newsletter that goes out on the internet, isn't it? Every Friday.
Local newspapers.
So, just to pick up, I think when somebody has an issue, I keep having falls, for example. They're not going to search for occupational therapy. They're going to say,
help me when I fall.
Yeah, or something like that. So it's
changing the
tagging
language.
onto those searches and not using language. Yeah, exactly.
And certainly when you do social media, that you can include lots of people that ask different bits and pieces that come up for that.
Our website's tiny.
So we speak a totally different. I mean, you talked about language, but if a social worker came to your house and says, "I'm here to do an assessment. I'm doing the 3 conversations, and we might give you a direct payment." Do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
So you see, that's the language.
So it's a language we use. It's
You have to use something we know about.
You know about it, but someone that hasn't used the service may not know about it. Yeah, and exactly what you said. What?
Well, my last question to keep us on time, because I don't know when I will get very sloppy.
We'll get all these people suddenly appear up on the screen.
When new technology is introduced, how else might it impact communities? How do you think it's going to make your communities feel if we introduce this technology?
Well, I think you could scare old people.
Yeah, being outdated, not understanding.
So you think it could scare older people? Yeah. Or improve confidence.
Once they get used to it.
Yeah.
But initially.
Yeah. As I say, remember when I went around the bingo halls and the social clubs and the bowling clubs, they had the tech.
Yeah.
They didn't like their children telling. They didn't like their children telling them. They were quite happy with their grandchildren telling them. But they do have it. So, they're much more tech savvy sometimes, older people, than we think.
Yeah, but I had a lady who used to work for me, and after she retired, she'd be phoning me up and saying, kids put me an iPad, and, how do I do it? How do I do that? And you try to explain over the phone.
Do you think it might be a way of decreasing social isolation, people being on their own with this tech? So I can put increase social isolation? Okay.
I think to be honest with you, it would sort of like reduce stress on communities.
Yeah.
And also give them more peace of mind as well, because.
Yeah, absolutely. And it reduces, impacts so many people. Yeah. Their loved one, their carers, the GP, the social workers. If they're not going there because they've got the answer here, it can solve so many things. And I can't stress on you how the well-being improves so much when people feel independent and they feel trusted again. It's like, I'm not just old nan sitting at home anymore. I can get one through the best of them. Okay, so I think that's absolutely fantastic. I think I've got enough. How are we doing for time?
Yeah, it's perfect. I feel like they should appear at any moment.
Well, I hope I can do a decent feedback for you. I'm actually feeding back on questions 1 and 2. If I don't, please chip in. Lisa.
Still about 5 minutes left. No.
Was
that?
That's going up, isn't it? Not down.
When you go press 1, press 2.
Yeah.
I don't know. You've got it.
I could close them, so I could make an announcement. I can't see how long they've got left, and I've asked my team, but they're not responding. Closing the room. 2 mins.
I'm a person.
So you can send an announcement.
Yeah.
when it says to me, "Are you a
And
robot?"
then I can.
No, I'm not.
I mean, it might close before then.
How many ladders can you see? How many bikes can you see?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you see American terms.
Can you see
don't
a
they?
bridge? I know. Where's the fire hydrant?
You're right.
Thank you so much. I've got some good catches back here, so I'm sorry I can do justice.
I've just given them a warning.
Thank you.
So if you want to grab a drink or anything, then
Yeah,
amongst
anybody else want
yourselves,
to- Can I get somebody a drink?
and we'll
Lisa? No. Sure. So tea, coffee, orange juice? Was that a good one? I should mark that down.
Get yourself a
2 minutes, she said. It's 2 minutes left.
Oh, there you go. So it might, maybe I'll let them do it.
Yeah.
It's strange after we've seen you face to face.
Yeah, after all this. It's very, yeah, because you feel like you know each other, but then.
So hopefully as this project goes on, you might see more of Wenna and I. We want to come out to communities and groups. So look out for our social media.
On our apps.
On our apps.
I think one of the things that we were discussing originally about, how using some of this technology that's available, for example, a group of people that have a pendant, with a system, to the call center, is there a way of asking, a continuous conversation with those people, maybe through the pendant system, they can sit in their own home and have a meeting and, with the staff responsible for it and tell them what works for them with it and what doesn't work so well.
So regular feedback.
Yeah, regular feedback, yeah. Using the technology itself to do that,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Birmingham Council don't want to put this tech in and people not use it, or frightened to use it, or not understand it.
Doing on there.
So we will. And so what we want to do is, we want to make sure the equipment or the tech that is put in is what people really want and use and will get benefits from it. It's a lot of money if they invest. It can make some savings, but that's not what it's about really. It's about looking after everybody.
So I think we've got people back in the room. I'm just, I presume Amanda and Deb, if you're there, if people come back in through the lobby, you can admit them. That'd be great. And if you want to mute yourselves so that we don't get any clashing sounds, hopefully you can see and hear us all.
Teams on.
Yeah. Great. So I'm glad, Irene, you said you've had an incredible session. We've had a great discussion here as well. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to ask the facilitators just to feedback on the different questions, because we didn't want to repeat the whole conversation again for you. And we've recorded it all in all the groups. So we will be taking this back and feeding it into the process that I showed you earlier. Anita, you're going to feedback on the first couple of questions.
Yes, so question one was, how confident do you feel about using technology? And which types of technology do you currently use? Well, I was very proud to say that I've got a room full of techies, and they have every available equipment out there. They have tablets, phones, they have devices, apps, computers, Alexas, lots and lots of different tech out there. And Derek, who's sitting next to me, kindly said that I could say that he has a problem where he's going to lose his voice. He knows it's weak now and it's going to go completely. And he's banked his voice. That's right, isn't it, Derek? And it's going to be in future years when he needs it and he loses his voice, he'll be able to use those words and still have a conversation. So that was my great tip for today. Bank your voice. And then we asked, so they use quite a lot. They're not worried about it. They're confident about it. And they have they use it for their health, where they have monitors a pacemaker, which goes direct to the GP. They have smart watches when they can find it, that will record all their health needs. So that's quite good. People are using it not just for fun, but it's also for health and social care there. Number two, what enables or prevents you from using technology? We thought the confidence of being able to use such tech, being aware of what's out there and how you can use it, language barriers, not just with English not your first language, but sometimes the words that we use in tech aren't always clear, and you don't understand exactly what that means. The cost, in many ways, with energy going up, service cost, but some of the groups felt that actually the benefits outweigh that cost from what you're going to get for the tech. But that was one area. Culture as well. People were wondering about different cultures in different communities, how they'd feel about using such tech. Enablers, we've got down here, they need a reliable broadband connection. We did hear some people say Virgin is not so good. So in some areas, Virgin doesn't work. It's good to have reviews from peers. Look on other sites to find out what you can do. So that would enable you to use it. YouTube we've got is always a good way of finding out what tech is out there and using it. They want the tech to be simple to use. They want people to use it. They don't want any complications. And then lastly, we had quite a big discussion about training skills and what and who you could go to support you. We came up with some fantastic ideas. One of them being a website where you could log in, you could have a language barrier up there so you could pitch which language you spoke and it would answer all your questions. And you could have training videos or clips, links to apps that would show you how to work things. So I think that's it. Anybody else anything else? Drew? No, thank you for your input.
Thanks, Anita, that's fair. Is it Amy for question 3? Yeah, Amy, are you there? Sorry, I'm muted. I can't see anybody for some reason. I think, Simon, can you only see me as well? Yeah, something weird going on with the tech, but I can hear you. So we had some really interesting conversations. So question 3 is around what do we need to consider for this work when thinking about different communities. So there's a lot of talk around internet poverty, which is something we really need to think about. Don't want people to be excluded if they don't already have internet access, so that needs to be considered and factored into the service design. In terms of communities, so we spoke a lot about how public health have some really useful insight into hard to reach communities that was kind of gathered during COVID. And there's some really useful learning we can take from them. So things like going to places of worship or community centres to present to people in their own language as well can really help to spread the message. Some really useful suggestions about sharing information via GP surgeries, even on buses, adverts on buses, using the radio, local radio stations, and social media as well. So even if social media might not necessarily target the people we want to reach, it might target their younger relatives who can then help share that information. And then there was also reference to people with no recourse to public funds, so people who may be unaccounted for in figures, they're kind of hidden, but we need to think about what it is we can potentially offer these people. And there's lots of refugee communities within Birmingham, so Ukrainian, Afghan and Syrian refugees, so we need to keep them in mind and how we target them, and people of no fixed abode as well. We got cut off mid conversation there, so we didn't get into the details around that, but I think that's a really useful one to consider. Really helpful, thanks Amy. Shada, I can see you've got your hand up. Did you want to come in?
Yes, I think this was a very interesting session. I think 2 things we can do if Abid is listening to me. We should launch this success of all the digital, which we have been talking, I think, quite a way back, maybe back before COVID. Do a launch on this and also give training to us, people who wants to promote your work. And we go in a community in our language or in English. And we team up. I was talking about Michelle. We team up and we go together in a community and share this information because a lot of people do not know where about or what to do and all that. Would be very, very useful. So Abid, let's have a launch on this, not on a Zoom, but face to face. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Shada. Lots of nodding going on. So lots of people hearing, yeah, agreeing with you. So Irene, in a minute, can you feedback for question 4?
Yeah, I think Sharda really sums up our group. We just had such a positive conversation. I think so really broadly what I heard was people are excited about this. They've been waiting for it really, for something really joined up and accessible and appealing and equitable. Use tech not just for needs but for lives. How can we support carers to actually get on with life as well? What's the wraparound support to take people through that for a long time? How can we personalise things as much as possible? For example, if you're on a direct payment, we had a really great conversation about actually thinking through almost like what are the protocols that need to be set up, especially in a crisis scenario, and some really great tactical ideas about actually, for example, send out an email and a brochure to people who are either in receipt of care, drawing on care, or supporting someone, and then they can prompt the conversation with the OT and social worker because they really want to do it. So it's really empowering people with the information. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Irene. Mark, do you want to come in? You're on mute. So you just need to unmute yourself.
Just to build on what I meant by when I said new tech for life instead of need. You might think to the social worker that people need lots of tech to meet their life, but it might not be relevant to the servitude of life. So deal with that bit first, let them see how relevant it is, and then you will get to use technology to meet as many needs after that. That's what I meant by that.
Yeah, that's really clear. Thanks, Mark. Thanks. And we're, like I said, we're noting all this feedback down. So I'm just going to go back to the slide so you can see where we're at. And we will, sorry, Irene, were you going to say something else? That was an accidental hand. No, yeah.
That was an accidental hand.
That's fine, that's fine. So I've just got one last slide before I hand back to the chairs. So just to let you know, we are meeting monthly with citizens, some of which I've said are present here today, to keep this project on track and to keep hearing your feedback and integrating it. And I'm sure, so Lisa is a member of that to start with. So if anybody's got anything they really want to make sure is in this discussion, then do contact Lisa or us. I've put my email address on there as well. So feel free to keep in touch if you have any brainwaves. And also, like Anita mentioned earlier, we are going to be doing some further engagement in the autumn. When we get to that point of thinking we've put the business case forward and we're ready to start looking at providers and what could be bought, then we want to be talking to residents at that point as well. And so we may be collaring you and saying, can we come and speak to community groups that you know and link us into people? So please look out for us then as well. But I think unless anyone's got anything urgent to say on that, Amy, yeah. I
just wanted to mention the citizen survey, that if people haven't filled it out, the deadline is midnight tonight. So,
brilliant. Have you put a link in the chat already, or could you, if you haven't?
But Deb, have you got that you could share?
For anyone who
Somebody
has it on paper to be here today, we've got some printout, please.
Thank you. So yeah, so we've got paper copies here, or we'll pop a link in the chat. It closes at midnight, and that again is just gathering as much data as we can to build this case for technology around care. Great, thank you, Sarah.
Slide here. Change slide. Okay.
Wow, what a session we've today. And it's almost a privilege to be working with you. I mean, for me, I haven't been in this building in 6 months, but never mind. If you're not already involved and you want to be involved, then do get in touch.
Contact
Yeah, contact any member of the team. The next session is on the 20th of June. I'm not too sure of the topic, but I dare say that will be publicised as soon as we can.
Future City, I think it is.
Future City.
Yeah.
I'd just like to thank everybody for coming, virtually and face to face, and to the team, your team.
Thank you.
You too.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm out of practice. I'm getting meeting ages.
So amazing.
It is, I mean, it's completely different doing it face to face to virtually.
Yeah,
Well-
I much prefer face to face.
Yes.
Lisa, I've been for a long time, have I?
Well, thanks to Adi for setting it up as well, because it has worked swimmingly online and doing it hybrid.
Is this called peer-to-peer support on technology?
Yeah.
We're learning on the job. Thank you all. I think that's it, and have a good afternoon. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Great to see everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Abid, for a lovely session. Bye-bye.